going to be a show and an educational opportunity at exactly the same time. So it's really exciting after years of prohibition and misunderstanding that we finally get to talk about this plant. This remarkable, powerful healing agent. But along with this very powerful idea comes, I believe, some strong confirmational bias, either for or against the plant. So for the time that we're here this evening, let's just try to suspend that for this hour, okay? Because the reality is that this plant has always been used as a natural medicine. It always has been. And now that there are different versions of it, what I like to call decaf or the hemp version versus regular, the high octane THC stuff, I think what we need to embrace and accept is that they're different products with different markets with different customers. Is that fair enough? And that Peggy, who has been a stalwart in the natural product industry, let's give Peggy a round of applause. Let's give her a round of applause. Okay? That she saw early on that there was a market for decaf and that not everybody needed regular. And so I want to make that very clear because we've now been in business for several years and I give these lectures all over the country and there are always a few cannabis enthusiasts that are sitting there saying, but what about the weed? What about the wheat? That's a different talk. You can go to that talk when they have that talk. That's not the talk I'm giving today. I'm going to talk about ditchweed. I'm going to talk about agricultural hemp. I'm going to talk about a product that contains many of the benefits of cannabis without getting you intoxicated or high. And so if you just check in with yourself for a moment, do you think that the market for decaffeinated marijuana would be bigger than the market for stuff that gets you totally stoned? Don't you think if you did the math that the number of people that would like that benefit? So please, for any of the cannabis enthusiasts, we're not disparaging medical marijuana here at all. Different product, different market, different customer. So let's get the show on the road. This isn't a new idea. This stuff has been around. Here's Eli Lilly selling cannabis extracts 100 years ago. They were growing cannabis Americana. That was their strain. And back then, they knew that this was the safe, holistic alternative to dangerous drugs. People were taking things like morphine 100 years ago and getting constipated. Doesn't it sound similar today? Yeah. And they were having a problem. So this was the holistic, safe, natural alternative to dangerous drugs. Then this movie came out. Marijuana spelled with an H instead of the J. This isn't the Reefer Madness movie. This one came out 1 year before the Marijuana Tax Act. 1 year before 1937. And it was over then. But by 1940, CBD was discovered. And it was not discovered in time. They knew in 1940, look at, cannabidiol has none of the physiological activity typical of marijuana. They spelled it again that way because of the, the negative film that was out there. And it was too late. The stuff was already gone. Now you fast forward to 2016, because 75 years later, the American Botanical Council. Does anybody know Mark Blumenthal? Has anybody heard of his name, his work over the years? I know Peggy has. Well, he said the data surrounding CBD, particularly in indications such as pain relief, traumatic brain injury, and seizures, augur well for its future in the market, ready? If the molecule were discovered in any other plant. He basically said if cannabis was found, if CBD was found in a coconut, that nobody would have a problem with it. Well, the reality is it is from a cannabis plant, and we have to accept and embrace that. And I can tell by the audience tonight, and we'll take a look at what we've been doing in our sales, it looks like everybody is starting to embrace it. So a little background on who your yeller is tonight. I'm yelling because I want to make sure everybody can hear me. You are my tribe. I've done this my entire life. I worked in a juice bar, health food store when I had a head full of hair. And then I went and built North American Herb and Spice. How many of you use the oil of oregano in the little blue bottle, right? The cure is in the cupboard. I did that with Dr. Ingram for 10 years. And then I was recruited from there to go to Nordic Naturals, where I was the director of education for the largest fish oil company in the world. Now, that doesn't necessarily make me a world-class expert on phytocannabinoids, but it makes me an expert on health food stores and FDA and DSHEA and all of the rigmarole that's needed to keep the freedom, in our opinion, the freedom and access to natural medicine open and available. And I came to join this company about 4 years ago. Here's a picture of our new office. We were founded in 2012. 50 employees now, 52 employees. We have 2 different divisions. One are the consumer products that I'll talk about tonight. We also have an FDA division where we're using cannabidiol as the active ingredient to go after smokeless tobacco addiction. And we've met already with the FDA, and we've got a great relationship moving forward. We're also a publicly traded company. So for those of you that ever worked in publicly traded companies before, I want you to kind of imagine how crazy it is to start a publicly traded cannabis company over the last few years and what that was like. That makes the FDA look like nothing when you're trying to pull this off. And we're doing very, very well because we're delivering on the promise. So tonight we're going to talk about our consumer product division. We'll talk about our raw formulas, our green formulas, and our gold formulas, but about maybe 10 or 15% of our energy. We're going to spend the majority of our energy talking about the endocannabinoid system and explaining at least what we believe the current understanding is of their mechanisms of action. Because where I come from as the lead educator from Nordic Naturals, we sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of fish oil, not selling it to you. We sold a lot of fish oil by educating people and teaching them the difference between all the fatty acids and what you could do in your diet and all the fish and the foods you could avoid to increase your omega-3 levels. It was very successful. We're doing the same thing tonight. So if you were looking for an infomercial, hey, I've got XYZ, fill in the disease, I want to know how many capsules of this to take, don't ask me! Because we know not to answer that question, right? Let's be crystal clear. Natural products do not cure, mitigate, ameliorate diseases or disease symptoms. Only drugs do that. However, tonight I can tell you all about CBD and about the medical literature and what CBD is showing itself to do, and you can connect the dots that the product is there at the counter. But it doesn't say on here, anti-Alzheimer's pill, okay? And that's very important because the companies that are out there making crazy claims because this ingredient is delivering, they're getting in trouble and we don't want to do that. So the first thing we need to address is what is the difference once and for all between hemp and medical marijuana? Wow, is that confusing. They're both called cannabis sativa L. However, the DNA is different in agricultural hemp and smokable ganja. So think about this. Anyone that loves plant medicine, same first and last name, totally different DNA. How confusing is that? How confusing is that? No wonder regulators are all confused. We're telling them, no, hemp has a low risk. They open up the books and they say, hemp is marijuana. We say marijuana has the high risk. You don't want that stuff. They say, well, marijuana is hemp. It's confusing. The best definition we have right now is the percentage of THC, because there's no monograph that's been written fully elucidating the differences in the DNA. We're working on that. Today, in real time, in this moment, if you grow a hemp plant, and you're growing it in Kentucky, where we're growing research plants, and they test it, it has 0.4% THC, they say burn it down, it's marijuana. If it has 0.3% THC or less, they say that's cool, that's hemp. Now that's confusing for people, right? So the obsession is the zero. And so I say, what's the definition of zero? So let's have some fun. How many of you drink kombucha? Anyone drink kombucha? Alcoholics, why would you drink that garbage? No, it's total garbage. Alcohol kills brain cells. There's no benefit at all to alcohol, right? Why would you drink it? It has 0%. Really, why? Because the benefits outweigh the risks, right? A fermented beverage like that is supposedly good for your gut-brain-belly connection, so we'll let a 9-year-old girl buy kombucha from Peggys store. However, how many of you remember when we had to get liquor licenses to sell kombucha? Does anybody remember that? We used to have to get liquor licenses to sell kombucha, and now we're over it. So how about coffee? Who drinks coffee here? Speed freaks, you knew that was coming. I'm off the stuff. Can you imagine how lucky you are, right? Decaffeinated coffee doesn't have 0 milligrams of caffeine, it has 30. Just like fat-free isn't 0, and sugar-free isn't 0, and sodium-free isn't 0, so it depends on your definition of 0. We made this infographic for legislators in Washington, D.C. They got it. This was very effective. So we're looking at products tonight we believe are relatively low risk in comparison to products that may be higher risk. Now, I said they're different products, different customers, different markets. Some of you may have been following the hemp wars inside the fight for federally legal CBD. I had the privilege of being quoted in Rolling Stone magazine. What people have to accept and embrace, completely different products, totally different markets, different customers. That is going to continue as a theme through our talk tonight. So THC is psychoactive, CBD is non-intoxicating. They do different things. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide. I just want to ask the audience. We all have children or grandchildren or younger people that we're related to or that we know. Somebody that you love, that's close to you, breaks their leg. They go to the emergency room and they get 2 prescriptions. One is for THC and the other one is for fentanyl. Now, you're the caregiver. Which prescription are you going to fill for the little girl? Fentanyl or THC? Answer me, everybody. THC. Nobody would answer like that 5 years ago. Yes! It's exciting, right? That is change. You just saw change. Everyone's like, we don't want those opioids anymore. What were they telling us 5 years ago? Take opioids. Take opioids. They were wrong. Okay? We were right. That's okay. You just can't have an attitude about it. You just have to go with the change. Different product, different market, different customer. If CBD can give you all of these benefits and decrease the THC psychoactivity, check this out. Somebody's using a lot of cannabis all day long, smoke, 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 smoke. CBD is a negative modulator of the receptor in the brain that makes you stoned. So CBD changes the shape of the lock so that the THC key doesn't fit as well in there and you're not as stoned and not as psychotic. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? The cannabis from 1968, the year I was born, had the same amount of CBD to THC, and then they bred out all of the non-psychoactive stuff to give you more of the psychoactive component. All we're doing is bringing back the balance. And we're using the same ditch weed that Eli Lilly used in 1906. So now let's dive into the chemistry, but have some fun with the chemistry, because this is where it gets nuanced is an understatement. So you have phytocannabinoids in nature. CBDA, which we'll talk about tonight, which is different than CBD. THCA, there's 104 phytocannabinoids. They all do different things. Do we talk about omega fatty acids like they're all the same? No. There's omega-5 and omega-7, omega-9, omega-3, omega-6. There's arachidonic acid, docosahexaenoic acid, icosapenta. There's a lot of them, right? They all do different things. They all have different structures. They all have different functions. So do the cannabinoids. Now listen closely. Your body also makes marijuana-like compounds. Your body makes marijuana-like compounds all day long, and most of us had no idea. Now, you do feel the marijuana-like compounds if you do a lot of aerobic activity. So they say, oh, 20 minutes of aerobic activity, you start feeling really good. And you just kind of just moving around, trying to figure out, and all of a sudden you start feeling different. Why do you feel different? Has anyone ever had the runner's high when you cross the marathon and you cross that finish line and you're like, I'm high? What are you high on? Ready? Anandamide, which means bliss, joy, delight in Sanskrit. That's right, your body, my body, all of our bodies, we make the bliss neurotransmitter. And you feel complete bliss when you have exposed yourself to a lot of anandamide from a lot of aerobic activity. And you cross that finish line, you're high on your own supply. That's what God made. THC and CBD are biological coincidence. Nicotine receptor. Acetylcholine fits into it, but so does nicotine. Were you born to smoke Pall Mall cigarettes? Of course not, right? So we weren't born to have a relationship with cannabis. We weren't preordained to have a relationship with THC. No, not at all. Ready? Phytocannabinoids are neuro and immunomodulatory, as are the endocannabinoids. When you take the phytocannabinoids, they influence the endocannabinoids. So you're getting benefit from your own body and the compounds we produce, and we're fine-tuning it with the CBD oil that we're getting from hemp. Does that make sense to everybody? So these compounds have direct activity and indirect activity because the phytocannabinoids influence the fate of the endocannabinoids. Now, if we look at CBD by itself, stop thinking of any other cannabinoid just for a moment. CBD is anti-inflammatory and analgesic and anti-diabetic and antibacterial and anti-cancer and anti-proliferative and anti-ischemic and spasmodic and neuroprotective and anti-epileptic and anxiolytic. This is a treasure trove. This is a complete and total cornucopia of healing. Now, for those of you that want the deep medical literature, there is tremendous material online right now. How many of you use pubmed.gov? Can I see a show of hands? Great. More in this group than in other groups. pubmed.gov. P like Paul. pubmed.gov. pubmed.gov is the National Institutes of Health's open access database. You know what yes?
I'm wondering, is there a stronger degree of this that is given prescriptions by doctors?
Okay, her question was, and if we can, because of this environment, let's hold the questions until I'm done, just to keep the theatrics going. Because I want to entertain you. The question that she asked is there a stronger version that the doctors have? Not yet. They're very, very close to FDA-approved drugs, which are at the end of the presentation, which I will show you the CBD products that pharma is working on. That's kind of the crescendo of my talk. So I will make sure that we focus on that. So here, let's get back to the literature. Pharmacology and Therapeutics. This paper was recently published. CBD, state-of-the-art and new challenges for therapeutic applications. So this paper is available on pubmed.gov, and here it lists all of the different diseases that CBD may have benefit for. And again, I want you to put together that just because this says, let's take one and dissect it. How about anxiety? Since most people are pretty stressed out these days, right? And we know that a little bit more anxiolytic, Zen-like balance for all of us could be beneficial. Let's take a look at anxiety here, okay? Ready? Attenuation of the behavioral and glia changes in animal models of schizophrenia. Antipsychotic properties on ketamine-induced symptoms, reduction in muscular tension, restlessness, fatigue, problems in concentration, improvement of social interactions in rodent models of anxiety and stress, and finally, reduced social anxiety in patients. That sounds pretty promising, doesn't it? So if we are all looking for new, fast, and effective anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications, these compounds are offering something very hopeful, because the side effects of these products are very, very, very low relative to dangerous drugs. So that's where we start looking at low risk versus high risk. Now, at this point in the presentation, there's always somebody, and I put the slide in for the people that are there, saying, you're going too fast. The government didn't tell me yet that this stuff is totally blessed, and they still say it's a Schedule I substance. So I want to see the evidence that Uncle Sam admits that there's tremendous medical benefit here. What you're looking at is the United States patent on CBD that was filed here 2003, cannabinoids as an antioxidant and as a neuroprotectant. Does anybody recognize Julius Axelrod? Right? This woman's an academic, right? He won a Nobel Prize for his discovery of neurotransmission. And it's held by the United States of America as represented by the Department of Health and Human Services. Have you seen this ever, ma'am? Have you seen this with your own eyes? Okay, a lot of people didn't even know that this existed. So I'll read it to you. It's small print, and I'll yell it so you can hear it, okay? This is what the government says. CBD, cannabinoids, are found to have particular application as neuroprotectants. For example, in limiting neurological damage following ischemic insults such as stroke and trauma, or in the treatment of neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and HIV dementia. So no, this is different than anything we've ever had, because they've never admitted this about any of this other natural stuff. It gets better. Non-psychoactive cannabinoids such as CBD that they're trying to monopolize and control now as a drug, to your point, ma'am. They're going to try to control this thing with what you just heard. There's a lot of money at stake here. Non-psychoactive CBD is advantageous to use. Why? It avoids toxicity that's encountered with THC. If you wanted THC to protect your brain, or to be an antioxidant, and you took enough of it, it would be psychotoxic, where the CBD is totally safe and non-intoxicating. Decaf, regular. Decaf, regular. Now, it's owned by us. If you pay taxes, we own this. So the idea that we can't have access to the oldest natural medicine, according to Chinese medicine, the king of the emperor of all natural medicine, because it belongs to some British pharmaceutical company, is laughable. And that's why we have no fear of any kind whatsoever. Groups like this demand is why CBD is going to stay. But the goal today is to have you walk away understanding and appreciating your endocannabinoid system. That's my job tonight. If you don't understand the ECS, if you're not interested in the ECS, by the time I'm done, we failed. Why? Prohibition is ending. Sales are skyrocketing. We don't need any help there. I'm sorry, we're selling the stuff as fast or faster than we can bottle it. So we're not here to try to sell you anything, okay? People love to buy, in my opinion, and they hate to be sold. And if I can teach you about the endocannabinoid system and inspire you to do a little bit of self-exploration, that's a nice, healthy way for us to do this. So let's talk about this endocannabinoid system. It's based on lipid mediators. If you've ever studied omega-3, remember prostaglandins and leukotrienes? They're hormone-like compounds that are made and degraded, that show up and direct cellular traffic. Endocannabinoids are no different. What do? They help to deal with stress by modulating your endocrine function, your fight or flight, mounting an inflammation immune response, and helping to moderate that. Simply put, when you're healthy, your endocannabinoid system is healthy. When you're healthy, your endocannabinoid system is healthy. I'm going to have to say it 3 times for a purpose. When you're perfectly healthy, and your endocannabinoid system is balanced, and you use some cannabinoids, you might get imbalanced and feel weird. If you're imbalanced and you use some cannabinoids, you might get balanced and feel good. Does that make sense to everybody? So people say, well, I tried it, but it didn't do anything to me. You might not have needed it. Does that make sense? So this is not a panacea. This is one powerful tool in the toolkit that you and I were not allowed to have. And now the forbidden fruit is finally available to us. So endocannabinoid tone. This system, the endocannabinoid system, represents a microcosm of psychoneuroimmunology, or mind-body medicine. It is the interface of mind-body medicine. That makes it very, very, very powerful. Meaning, if you don't know what you're doing with your ECS, for example, you go to Colorado, you go eat 100 milligram edible of THC like some government people have, and then you write these scathing articles about how horrible this whole stuff is, right? So we need to understand how to approach this. I talked to you about aerobic activity. What about diet? How does diet affect your endocannabinoid system? Your endocannabinoid system, because of these lipid mediators that I mentioned earlier, what happens if you're eating Pam and Spam and Ding Dongs and chicken nuggets and Ho-Hos and Krispy Kremes, right? You're eating a lot of omega-6 seed oil, right? A lot of soybean oil. How many of you have been privy to this? The National Institutes of Health believes that unbridled food-seeking behavior is being triggered by inordinate amounts of omega-6 in our diet, telling the same receptor that THC hits to give you the munchies. Can you believe that? Food, there might be something to I can't stop eating the French fries. So diet and aerobic activity affect your endocannabinoid system. Next, the density of these receptors, we don't know if you're going to respond to 1 milligram or 15 milligrams until you take it. So start slow. And then what about their functional status? Some receptors are upregulated and downregulated depending on the disease. And we don't even really fully appreciate that yet. And finally, there are no scans to tell how much or how little endocannabinoid activity you or I have. So if there's no way to prejudge, we can't test the person, then you have to try the product yourself. But we've been hardwired for this stuff. The most abundant receptor in the human brain, the G-protein coupling receptor, CB1, named after the plant cannabis. I'll say that again. The most abundant receptor in the human brain is named after cannabis. And it's named after cannabis because they were trying to find out how cannabis works. And they were looking around and they thought maybe it caused the cell membrane to get weird and kind of squiggly. And then in a pig brain, they discovered the CB1 receptor. So if there's a receptor, you know what that told them? There's a key. If there's a lock, there's a key that the body makes. And what's the key that the body makes? Endocannabinoids, anandamide and 2-arachidonoglycerol. Now, just because THC fits into the CB1 receptor, does that mean we were born to smoke the bong? No. That just means that we have a relationship with that signaling system. The CB2 receptor is where CBD has most of its action. CBD has very little action directly here. It has indirect activity, but it has more direct activity here on the CB2 receptor, and we'll explain. The CB1 receptor, remember, this is the one that the runner's high or THC. This is the CB1 receptor. CB1 receptor, central and peripheral nervous system, distributed throughout the brain, pleasure, memory, thought, concentration, sensory and time perceptions, coordinated movement. Isn't that a nice way of explaining you were stoned? Right? That's the CB1 receptor. Now, is there a role for all of that in medicine? Yes, there is. But for us here at the health food store, look at this. CB2 receptors, located on immune cells mainly, when activated, affect inflammatory and immunosuppressive activity. What do? They control the release of cytokines and cell migration. Cytokines, that immune response. When you get Ebola, when you have Ebola, does Ebola kill you or do the cytokines kill you? Your immune system kills you trying to kill the Ebola, right? So the idea of a compound or compounds that can dampen or modulate in an adaptogenic way the response of the CB2 receptor with little to no effect on the CB1 receptor would be pretty exciting, right? Those are the products that we're selling. That's what we're offering. Something that has this effect with almost none of that effect. Can you see why that's popular? That's why it's popular. Now there's more. What about people that are just deficient in endocannabinoids? Remember, ma'am, I said we have no way to measure to find out what's going on in us. What if deficiency is leading to many diseases? This is very exciting work. I want you to remember the name Ethan Rousseau for those of you doing homework. I'm just curious, are you familiar with Rousseau's work? So in 2004, he happened to be the senior medical advisor to the pharma company we're going to end with that actually is making CBD as a drug. So he was the senior medical advisor for the big pharma company. And listen to his idea. Clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. Now we know what happens if you're low in vitamin C, you have scurvy, right? You're low in other things, vitamin D, you have rickets. What happens if you're low in endocannabinoids? Ready? Can the concept explain the therapeutic benefit of cannabis in migraine, fibro, irritable bowel, and other treatment-resistant conditions? Here, if dementia and Alzheimer's is due to loss of acetylcholine activity, if Parkinson's is due to dopamine deficiency, and depression secondary levels to lower levels of serotonin and norepinephrine, how many migraine sufferers in here? Let me see a show of hands. How does natural medicine help with migraines? Doesn't really do much, does it? Holy basil, all of it. My wife's had it for years. Nothing. How many people that have fibromyalgia in here, right? A few. We're losing people to Lyrica all day long. Every health food store I go into, I'm taking the Lyrica now. I have to. You can't fault anybody when they're in pain, can you? And how about IBS? How do we do with irritable bowel? We put them on the fiber, we put them on the probiotics, we tell them to get hydrated, they still have problems. Why? If you have a clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, nothing in that store is going to help you. Now, according to Ethan Rousseau, ready? If you can totally fix your gut, now we're talking Jeff Bland. You want to totally fix your gut, get completely balanced in every way, you will then fix your endocannabinoid system. It's interchangeable. When you're healthy, the ECS is healthy. So what we're suggesting is, if you suffer from migraine, fibro, or irritable bowel, you may really want to try this stuff. You know why? Everything else failed. Do you see how I'm selling it? I'm not telling you it's the answer. I'm saying the lead scientist for the biggest pharma company making CBD as a drug is suggesting that you might have low endocannabinoid tone if you're suffering from those conditions. So let's make it nice and clear. Balance effects of endocannabinoids. Ideally, if the ECS is functioning normally, a person might enjoy a normal mental state without pain and have good digestive function. But what if it's hyperactive? And what's causing it to be hyperactive? Well, number one, now you know the seed oils. You all shop here, so you're not drowning in soybean oil. And THC, which you're probably not all drowning in THC, maybe some of you, but not all of you, right? Can cause hyperactive endocannabinoid tone, leading to what? Metabolic syndrome, overeating, obesity, increased inflammation, insulin resistance, diabetes, mental health instability. What if you're too low? Migraine, chronic pain, fibro, IBS, depression, PTSD. Here's the great thing about CBD. It fixes it either way. Either way. If you've got too much THC, you need some CBD. If you're eating too much omega-6, you need some omega-3. So we say nix the 6, eat the 3, ditch the THC, buy some CBD, right? Now, if you're too low, if you're too low, then CBD, ready? Let's drive our knowledge farther. CBD deactivates the enzymes that degrade the endocannabinoids, elevating endocannabinoid tone. I'll say it again. CBD inactivates the enzymes that degrade the endocannabinoids called fatty acid amide hydrolases and elevates endocannabinoid tone. My point being is either way you're going to get there, and here's how we're going to get there, by growing it outside. You don't get enough hemp in marijuana plants. You can't get enough cannabinoids in greenhouses to solve the problems that the world has in our corporate opinion right now. because the demand for this is going to be so great and the supply has a giant bottleneck. Because up until this agricultural farming, it was all being grown indoors in a little greenhouse. How expensive would it be? How impractical? How dangerous for the earth? How not green would it be to grow all the green indoors? Think about what that would be like. It would be a disaster. So this is in Holland, in the Netherlands, in Europe. I say Holland, sometimes my friends say, is it Holland, Michigan? My friends from Michigan there. No, this is Holland in the Netherlands. Why the Netherlands? Has Monsanto ever been to Holland? Has Cargill? Is there any chemical agri-farming in the entire country of Holland? No! So when people say to me, is it organic? Well, first of all, it's all carbon-based, number one, and they don't have organic certification for hemp yet. But they're not using any pesticides or any fungicides. Look at how beautiful that stuff grows. And they have to create these giant machines because that's 3,000 acres. Now I want you to roll with me here. This stuff has very little CBD in it. I'll say it again. This hemp has very little CBD. That's why we need a lot of green plant material. There are marijuana plants that have 30% CBD. They're this tall, right? And people say to me all the time, especially in Kentucky where we're doing a lot of growing, they say, y'all are stupid. You need to take the marijuana plant, breed it with the hemp plant, and get high levels of CBD. Well, guess what? Slow down, FDA. Slow down, FDA, because FDA doesn't consider that hemp anymore. FDA considers that a new dietary ingredient. This is an old dietary ingredient. This is the same hemp we've been using for hemp seeds and hemp seed oil the whole time we've had health food stores. Do you see the difference? This is hemp. It is not marijuana. You cannot do this in a greenhouse. So our products are vertically integrated. We harvest, extract. The seeds are EU certified hemp seeds. The CO2 extraction is done next door in Germany and then imported into our laboratory where it's tested, third-party tested, converted, formulated, and distributed. We have a laboratory where we're making all the products that are for sale here. You want to ask every other CBD company, you want to call them on the box and say, hey, where is the lab? I want to come and check it out. You're a great company. You make great things. I'm sure you want me to come and visit you, don't you? See what kind of responses you get. Any of you that find yourselves in San Diego, you find yourself in San Diego, you want to come and check out the lab, you want to meet our geneticists, you want to meet our scientists and our doctors, you want to see how we're running this like mini pharma, it's an open invitation. And that's part of the reason why we're doing so well. Because there are a lot of people extracting this stuff in barns. There are people extracting this on the field, which might be okay for the farmer's market, but it's not okay for pharma and it's not okay for a health food store. So our laboratory has all of the most technologically savvy, state-of-the-art material, and we've tested 1,500 CBD companies. So if you want to come to the lab and talk to QA, QC and find out how the other people are doing, we'll share that information when you're on site. So this kind of short path distillation machinery is not what your average pot farmer has in their bathtub. They usually don't. And that doesn't mean that the pot farmer doesn't grow incredible pot and that they're not powerful products that are very effective. Different product, different market, different customer. So that way it's free of all judgment. Do I think there needs to be markets where you can buy it at the farmer's market versus buying it as a pharmaceutical drug versus buying it here at the health food store? I'm open to all the markets. I think every opportunity we have to help people is important. So now let's talk about what we do with this machinery to make these products. So the first pressing is a stage 1 raw, simple extract of the entire hemp plant. We take the whole plant down, the seed, the stem, and the stalk, and we pelletize it. It has to be dried very quickly because there's a lot of water activity. So we test for aflatoxins along the way. So we have our little pellets. They're free of any toxicity, no aflatoxins. And then they get poured into a giant CO2 extraction machine in Germany where they do large-scale hops extraction. So that's how they're dealing with this massive biomass. So then this first pressing right here, the raw, that gets put into a soft gel and put into a bottle right on the shelf. So this goes from the field to the soft gel, pretty much to the shelf. Nothing heated, nothing taken out, whole hemp food medicine. Are there some of you already that are saying, yeah, I think I like that one? There are probably some of you sitting there saying, yeah, I sort of resonate with that. Well, none of the cannabinoids there are active. They're all in the acid form, which means they don't cross the blood-brain barrier very well. They stay primarily in the periphery. So these products here contain CBDA, the acid form, which is uniquely different than CBD. See the word decarboxylated? We break off the carboxylic acid group. How do we do that? It's a crock pot. You heat the stuff for a while, and now it's called activated, okay? Raw, activated. Raw, activated. Body, more for the mind. Now we take 10 kilos of this, and we short path distill it into the gold. So this is super concentrated. You see how it's gold color? It's no longer green. The chlorophyll is gone. There are now 7 cannabinoids in here. It's 50% fat. It's a totally different matrix, different product. So we've got a raw product, we've got an activated product, and a concentrated product. I'm going to go through this again. I'm just setting the table for you. And then you can take this gold and you can isolate it to 100% or 99% pure CBD. So let's think of fish oil, since we all know fish oil. Ready? Does that feel like cod liver oil to you? The raw, the original old school, the MUFA, the PUFA, the HUFA, right? The A, the D, the saturated fat, all of it. Doesn't that feel like that? Old school original remedy? That would be stage 1. Now it gets activated here, okay? So maybe we compare this to omega-3 from fish oil. That's more EPA and DHA, right? And this one here has been super concentrated. This is more like ultimate omega, where it's a higher concentration of EPA and DHA. Is everybody following me? And then this one is 100 or 99% either EPA or DHA. So think of cannabinoids in that way. Raw, activated, concentrated, isolated. Does that make sense? Okay, so you've got red, green, and gold. When you go into the store, when you go online, when you buy these products, you get a better idea. The red product is more of a potent, more acute peripheral anti-inflammatory. Why? The acid behaves more like a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. We'll get into that. The green, total body support with both systemic, anti-inflammatory, and now neurogenic benefits. Why? Because the CBD crosses the blood-brain barrier. Now, cannabinoids are triphasic. They do things in a low, medium, or high dose. You get to a higher concentration, now we've got high intensity support for both central and peripheral neurogenic dysfunction. This product speaks to the extended endocannabinoid system. Here it's 75% plant, 25% cannabinoid. This one here is 85% plant, 15% cannabinoid. This one's 90% plant material, 10% cannabinoids in the raw form. Can you see how they're all different products? So it wasn't just colors and labels. Now, has anybody looked at our website or our literature? Has anybody looked at our stuff? It doesn't say anything, does it? Has anybody else noticed? You need to come to these events to learn from us what these products do, because we're never going to put it in writing, okay? You know why? Because I know what I'm doing. Because I know what I'm doing. Anybody that puts it in writing, if you see got pain, got cancer next to a cannabinoid product, don't take it. Don't support that nonsense, okay? You can come out to an event like this, you can go online yourself, you can talk to your doctor, do some homework, experiment on yourself, but we can't make claims online. We also have third-party testing on every batch. This is a problem, a big problem. Cannabis is still new. The testing is not all consistent. So you want to ask manufacturers for your C of A, and you want a third-party certificate of analysis, because don't you want to know if there's aflatoxins or pesticides? Don't you want to know if there are heavy metals like arsenic, dangerous things like cadmium? Don't you want to know? Well, you should ask for third-party certificates of analysis when it comes to cannabis products. So let's go through these a little bit slower, so make a little bit more sense. Here's the raw red product. Now, I want you to learn how to read the label. Hemp oil, aerial plant parts. Again, above the ground is 60 milligrams. So in this dollop of 60 milligrams of hemp oil contains 5 milligrams of CBDA primarily as a naturally occurring constituent of the plant. Can you see where this is not 100% pure CBD? Do you see it? We get criticism because the brand is CBD oil. That's the name. Do you know why we use that name? Can you read where it says CBD from where you're sitting, sir? That's why we did it, okay? For that, just a very simple reason. Anytime there's an ad online or any news article and they've got the camera and it's going through the health food store, guess which one they've been filming? This one, because you can read it. So I just want you to know what our thinking is. It is hemp oil. The brand is plus CBD oil. Now it has a topical balm as well. If you see red, now you know it's raw. Why would CBDA be different than CBD for skin conditions? If it's eczema or psoriasis, CBDA is more appropriate. If it's pain and swelling, CBD may be more appropriate. So they're different packages, different products. If you try the topical balm for eczema and psoriasis and it doesn't work, we let people return things, don't we? And they can return it and say, hey, it didn't work. We're getting so few returns. I got a lot of returns in my life doing this. We're getting almost no returns, and when I do a trade show, there's no samples left to give out to anybody because everybody wants this stuff. So let's now review what this raw stuff does. Ready? Cyclooxygenase and 15-lipoxygenase inhibitor. I call it herbal aspirin alternative. This is an herbal aspirin alternative without the ulceragenicity, and I'm very excited to report that. For exercise-induced muscle soreness. So you start working out again, and I did that. I pinched my nerve in my back, and I didn't have time to go to the chiropractor. Try this. See if this works for you the way that it worked for me. If you're dealing with systemic inflammation, you might add CBDA to your fish oil regime. You may add CBDA to the turmeric that you're taking. You may actually add this product to one of our other products when we get there, if need be as well. Rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune conditions. And then nausea, vomiting, and motion sickness. Why? CBDA has more effect for the 5-HT1A serotonin system. We got a lot of serotonin receptors in the gut. And so for motion sickness and anticipatory nausea, this stuff is looking to be very, very helpful. So keep in mind, alternative to aspirin, rheumatoid arthritis, and autoimmune conditions. And its mechanism of action is very, very novel. The observation of linking of the CB2 agonists with the interplay of IL-10 and TREGs is very novel. So there's some good rationale for rheumatoid arthritis. Think red. Rheumatoid arthritis, red. Connect the red label to it, okay? And then anticipatory nausea, benzodiazepines are what's recommended. How do benzodiazepines work? Does anyone know? They work on the GABA receptor. CBD is a positive modulator of the GABA receptor, enhancing endogenous GABA binding to improve our mammalian inhibitory neurotransmitter, GABA. That's one of its mechanisms of action. Also, for certain cancers like breast cancer, certain cancers, CBDA appears to have a lot of promise. So how do you take it? 2 to 10 a day, least blood-brain barrier penetration, can be integrated with the other products. Now let's go to stage 2. We take the raw. You want to take a picture of that again, sir? This one? We take the raw and we activate it. We have to put it in the crock pot. Why? CBDA, liberate CBD. Got it? Stage 2. Here's what's in the product now after it's been put through the decarboxylation process. Look at all the fatty acids. Why do we have all the fatty acids in our cannabis product? Because we don't throw the seeds out. We keep all the seeds in there because we don't rogue the males. So what's in these seeds? Look at this, short chain, mid chain, and long chain saturated fatty acids. We actually have a significant amount of gamma linoleic acid, GLA, in here, and actually a significant amount of stearidonic acid. SDA is 1 carbon longer than ALA, so this can drive your EPA and DHA levels. You have cannabinoids that come from the leaf. You have terpenes, beta-caryophyllene that comes from black pepper. One of the powerful anti-inflammatory compounds is beta-caryophyllene that comes from black pepper. Why? It has effect on the CB2 receptor. It has activity at the same receptor that CBD does. Plant sterols, they're like the chlorophyll of the plant. They help to protect our cholesterol from being atherogenic. We have chlorophyll and vitamin E. All of that is in the green label. It's not isolated CBD. Do you see this? This is a complete and total food package. So these sprays have been very popular because this is 100 milligrams of CBD, and ready, 1 pump gives you half a milligram. If you're listening to this and you're saying, you know what, I want to start slow. I don't know. I mean, he seems a little too excited for me. I don't know. I don't want it to do that to me. Then start with the spray. 1 milligram. Take 1 spray. Does anyone know the name John Hicks, MD, who recently passed away? The medicinal power of cannabis. John Hicks, mentor and friend to me in Los Gatos, California. He had thousands of patients. Did you know his name? Pediatrician. Fantastic. He was seeing 2,000 or 3,000 kids globally. That was his jam right there. I said, what about all the other stuff? Stu, less is more with the kids. Less is more with the kids. So if you've got a child or a grandchild or a relative that's got attention, focus issues, and they're saying, let's put her on drugs. As a human that has the right to try to protect another human, you may want to intervene in that. That doesn't mean you'll be able to, but you certainly want to give this a shot. Now we have an extra strength as well, and I want you to notice this. Look at the THC here, 0.02 milligrams of THC per serving, but when it's triple the concentration, look at 0.06 milligrams of THC per serving. Keep the trace amount of THC in mind for when we get to the THC slide, okay? The micro dose of that trace amount of THC, keep it in mind. So now let's continue. The gold formula. It takes 10 kilos of this to make 3 kilos of this. So this is more concentrated, right? So here, it's standardized, similar to other herbal extracts, concentrating CBD and other cannabinoids, fatty acids, terpenes, and naturally occurring vitamin E. When you get to this higher level, ready? It's not just the ECS. It's 5-HT1A, it's TRPV, it's GABA, it's the mu opioid receptor, even PPAR gamma. You get to a higher concentration, you speak to an extended endocannabinoid system, more for neurogenic issues. Look at the product now. You up-concentrate the cannabinoids, the fatty acids are different, the plant sterols are gone, and now it's 50% fat. At 50% fat, you increase the bioavailability threefold. So I'm anti-nanotechnology, everything, until we figure out what's going on, okay? All day long I get phone calls. Hey man, this CBD water says it's 95% more bioavailable. I said, put them on the phone. I say, wait a minute. The patient is taking 100 milligrams a day for seizures. You're telling me that she only needs to take 95% less to get the exact same benefit? Well, that's not what we're saying. That's what you're saying. That's what they're saying. Fat increases the bioavailability. If anyone's ever tried cannabis, it works. It's very, very effective and very bioavailable. You mix it with butter, you mix it with olive oil, it works even better. The idea that somehow this stuff doesn't work unless it's souped up somehow. Does everyone remember krill oil when the krill thing came out? I dealt with that with Nordic Naturals, with the Better Business Bureau. We had the National Advertising Council. We had this big challenge with the CRN. We shut them down. And they still did a lot of damage, didn't they? Remember that commercial? 1 little krill capsule is the same as 5,000 fish oil pills. Do you remember that? So we have to really tease out what's marketing and what's science. This stuff is absorbable. So now let's get to the THC issue. See this big spike? That's CBD. Now I want to see a show of hands. How many of you have heard, I need some THC to activate the CBD? How many? Let me see a show of hands. How many have heard that, okay? You've heard that. Ready? Anybody ever here take straight caffeine? It doesn't work. I'm kidding. Is anyone taking pure caffeine? Pure caffeine works, right? What's the difference between pure caffeine and coffee? Coffee might not make you as nervous as pure caffeine, but what about green tea? Oh, green tea has L-theanine and caffeine in there. So it's got a gas and it's got a break. The idea that caffeine doesn't work unless the L-theanine is there, or that the L-theanine doesn't work unless the caffeine is in there, is just ludicrous. So to say that you would need another cannabinoid to potentiate the action of another cannabinoid is ridiculous. And you know who you would ask? Well, why don't we ask the man that discovered THC, okay? Let's ask Rafi, Professor Raphael Mechoulam, who is the godfather, and he discovered THC. He's going to know more about it than any dope fiend alive, okay? And here's what he says. A group in Tel Aviv University has found that a single ultra-low dose of THC, 0.002 milligrams per kilogram, several orders of a magnitude lower than the conventional dose in mice, protects your brain from different insults, including inflammation that causes cognitive deficits. So checkmate. You're wrong, whoever thinks you need THC to activate CBD. That's preposterous. In fact, the trace amount of THC that's in the hemp product is good for brain inflammation that causes cognitive deficits. Now, we might not have enough THC to get you high. Different product, different customer, different market. And for fibromyalgia kind of pain, CBD may be way better than breaking your leg, where THC may be more appropriate to deal with that kind of pain. So I invite you to watch the documentary. This is the first selfie that Raphael Mechoulam ever took. I said, come on, man, let's take a picture here. He's like, let's get a photographer. I met him at the International Cannabinoid Research Symposium, 26th annual. Where were we? Every year for the last 26 years, scientists have been getting together. It was incredible. Have you been to one of them yet? You got to go. I went to the one up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, up near the Bay of Fundy. We listened to 100 lectures, 15 minutes each, over 4 days. It was speed dating for dorks. You'd love it, okay? And I watched him watch his documentary for the first time. It was one of those big auditoriums where if you get on the side, you can see someone sitting in the middle. And you know, if you watch a documentary of yourself, you're sitting there like this, like, oh my God, did I really say that, right? It was powerful. So this is for free on YouTube. It's called The Scientist. It's on YouTube, called The Scientist. I love this. Ready? Are we missing something? Zach Klein asks. The answer is yes. And I believe we found it. So watch that, okay? So some of you have heard the term entourage effect. How many of you heard that term? Let me see a show of hands. And that's another one. The cannabis people, they're like, no, you don't want the hemp. You want the entourage effect. I'm like, oh, okay, dude. Where does the term come from? Well, you know, the entourage of it all working together. I'm like, okay, what paper? What reference? Have you ever seen where the original terminology came from? 1998. Vincenzo Di Marzo and Mechoulam, an entourage effect of inactive endogenous fatty acid glycerol esters enhanced 2-arachidonoglycerol cannabinoid activity. It has nothing to do with the plant. Nothing. It's the entourage of the endocannabinoids working together. It's the stoners that took that and borrowed it and hijacked it. They came up with the term. Now, it's been lent to it by Vincenzo Di Marzo, but the original idea was how these things work together. But listen to what the cannabis scientists came up with. We all know that isolated ascorbic acid is not the same as an orange, right? Right? Nobody would hang out in this tent if you believe that ascorbic acid is the same as food. But the cannabis scientists got to that in 1998, I believe because of the failure of Marinol in 1995. But in any case, listen, very seldom is the biological activity of the active constituent assayed with the inactive entourage compounds, which may lead to observations effects closer to those in nature than investigations with the active component only. So my point being is there's a lot of folklore out there. You got a lot of people in the cannabis community throwing terms around. And now the adults are here. And we read all night And we got a lot of scientists and a lot of smart people focusing on this, which means activism has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And now there's the practical application of what the activists were fighting for. Does that make sense? So let's go back to our gold product, super concentrated. What is this for? Chronic pain, mental health, stress resilience, anxiety, depression, fear, which stands for forget everything and run. You're seeing that all day long now. Neurodegenerative conditions, neuroprotection. Think treatment resistant, and I want you to think about like metabolic health. If someone already has type 2 diabetes, ready? THC gives you the munchies. You know what CBD does? It tells your brain that you should stop eating. Do you think that would be good? You know why the munchies are good? If she's 65 pounds in the ICU and she's dying, THC is going to keep her alive. And we've heard from patients that the pharmaceutical version of THC, Marinol, makes the patients feel psychotic, bless you. Do you know why? It's missing the CBD. So, we have this product available in an applicator where the other ingredients are N-O-N-E. So if you're a purist, I wrote this label. I couldn't wait to have a label that said, other ingredients, none! You like that? They're worried about what's the other ingredient here, how about none? Now you ask Peggy what this stuff tastes like. This tastes like you're licking like a battery after you took a bunch of tea tree oil. Okay? So just so you're clear, if you want other ingredients, none, it's going to taste horrible. Just so you know, right? That's why we also put it in a soft gel for you too. And the soft gel makes it a little bit easier to handle, and we use extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil as the only ingredient. It's a vegetarian soft gel. No mad cow meat, no prions in the brain. We're going for the veggie stuff. Now the topical balm is more for pain and swelling. Remember, the raw is eczema and psoriasis. So how do you use this stuff? 1 to 6 a day of the soft gels, 3 to 20 servings of the drops. The gold is also available in a drop. The gold, say you like the idea of the gold, but you want to go slower, you go the drop. 1 drop at a time. Next day, 2 drops. Next day, 3 drops. Next day, 4 drops. You keep building up. Okay, let's switch gears. We're on our last 15 minutes, okay? I want to talk about the science on our product. Not just CBD in general. The work we're publishing on what we're selling you. Don't you think that's important? Absolutely. Where people are like, oh yeah, look at all this great stuff about vitamin C. Is that done on your brand? No, man, doesn't matter, man. It kind of matters to me. So the first thing we can introduce you to is, how many of you are familiar with A4M, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine? A few of you? Okay. April 12th, A4M here in southern Florida. I think it's Hollywood, Florida. April 12th, it looks like we're going to have a 1-day continual medical education day, 7 speakers on endocannabinoids and cannabinoids. We just had at A4M in Las Vegas, 6 speakers in 1 day. And we're planning a 2-day cannabinoid symposium. We're going to fly in Raphael Meshulam and some of the other bigwigs. So this is now in the literature since 2014. So this is A4M. A4M is the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine.
Where are they going to do this on April?
I believe it's in Hollywood, Florida. So I would go to A4M's website and just make sure, since I live in California, I don't want to send you to the wrong Hollywood. Okay? So here's chapter 10. And Peggy can make copies of this. Chris can make copies. We can get copies of these. Let's get some copies, hard copies. We'll pay for it. Get some copies made and have these at the store. So we can hand them out to people, okay? So listen to this. Nutritional and medical applications for CBD, hemp health benefits without THC. You get the point, right? Joe Maroon, MD. Does anyone know Dr. Maroon? Board-certified neurosurgeon, senior vice president of A4M, Heidel Scholar in Neurosciences, University Pittsburgh School of Medicine. How's team neurosurgeon for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Are we going to get more mainstream allopathic American doctor than that? Are you? You're probably not, okay? And let's listen to what the good doctor says. He says the current state of CBD research is still in its early phases, and large randomized studies will be needed before mainstream acceptance occurs. Early adopters, however, are reporting human health benefits that will demand further investigation and confidence. Doesn't it sound better? Doesn't that sound better? Ready? We believe at this time that hemp-based CBD is a novel supplement that with further study could indeed have a profound effect on improving human health. Right? This isn't like just telling everybody to drink bone broth. I'm sorry. Okay? It's just, you can just exceed your trust factor, right? This is how you should speak about natural products, right? May have some benefits. So here's Dr. Maroon, and he's an Ironman triathlete, and he's my friend, and he uses our product. And that's how he deals with pain and inflammation. Look at, he's 73 years old, still doing brain surgery. How does that guy look? It's pretty good, right? And then here he is. He's telling Ward, I know you're stoned, man. Look at the smile. I can see it. You need some Visine. Come on, man. We want to get you off the regular, get you on decaf. I know what you're doing. You know, incredible. I just had a chance to edit. I just edited an abstract that got sent to the NFL about CBD. That's how new this is. You've got a leading neurosurgeon, a world-renowned neurosurgeon, asking us at CV Sciences to edit an abstract that he's sending to the NFL because we know more about it than he does. That's what's exciting. You can know as much as anybody because it's that new. When I hired people to do this with omega-3, they would say, how long before we can get her on the road? Well, there's 20,000 papers, and there's 2,500 randomized controlled trials. There's 20 books that she needs to read and watch these lectures. In a year, she can get out and give talks. No one will let you do that, right? And I'm sure you've seen, many of you have seen people show up here and give a talk that they didn't know what they were talking about. But here, you can follow this because he doesn't even know. Ready? He knows as much about this as you do, basically, except he's a neurosurgeon. So I got more. Does anyone know Michael Lewis? I got one hand back there, right on. Mike is also on our medical advisory team. Colonel Lewis spent 31 years in the Army. He's also a Master's of Public Health with an MBA and an MD who had his own special with Sanjay Gupta, U.S. Military Academy of West Point. He's also an Army Ranger, board-certified fellow of the American College of Preventive Medicine, Walter Reed Army Medical Center, also founding member of the Pop Warner Youth Football Medical Advisory Board, dealing with when brains collide. You know what he said to me when we first met? His job is to teach soccer dads. Notice I didn't say soccer moms. I keep correcting him, right? Soccer dads that, like, when your head gets blown up, when you're a girl on the soccer field and someone hits you in the head with a ball, he said it's the same thing as an IED going off. He said it's this, your brain doesn't know the difference between a soccer ball and being in Mosul. It has no idea. So we were doing a lot of really heavy-duty omega-3 research together. And he was trying to really sell the military on more omega-3. Well, he also got interested in CBD. And so he started using it. He says his clinical practice is focused on helping people recover from being knocked in the skull. And he says it's very effective for anxiety and depression. He says overdoing it is possible, creating anxiety. So let's be clear on that. Anything that's anxiolytic in a low dose can be anxiogenic in a high dose. That's why the dose is so important. Now he says, look at concentrated 15 milligram gel cap once or twice daily as needed throughout the day. Ready? One dose is usually sufficient. So you got an infectious disease hunter who was at the Pentagon telling you need one pill that costs $2 that you can buy at Peggys health food store for traumatic brain injury. How cool is that? So let's check it out. Let's look at a case history that you can't even make up. Everybody died but Bobby in the car crash. Everyone died but this young man. Now we have a little time. I got to indulge you the story. You can't make it up. It's a church story, so I always love church. I had a little moment to work that in, right? So Bobby's he's in a bad place. His parents are at church. They're praying. They don't know what to do. And a church member that they know happens to work at FDA. And he could make your life miserable. But he's also a good guy to know, right? And so Jerry started talking to the Gessemis, and he said, you need to call Mike Lewis. Why? Because Mike Lewis can get omega-3 into the feeding tube. Oh, how are they going to let him do it? When you walk into an intensive care unit and you're that kind of a military doctor with that background, you know what they say? Yes, sir! Okay? They let him put omega-3 into this feeding tube. And here's March, June, July, October. We brought him to Expo East and Expo West with his patch, and he stood up there. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Everybody's crying. And you know what the doctor says? He gets on the stage and says, I don't know if omega-3 saved his life. How can you prove that? Kid could have been wearing Nikes. He's a physician. He knows how to be a doctor. You see, he's not overselling it. It's ugly when you oversell it. But he told me, man, Bobby's still stressed out. He's still anxious. He's kind of depressed. I mean, he's not totally right. So this paper says CBD induces rapid-acting antidepressant-like effects and enhances cortical 5-HT glutamate neurotransmission role of 5-HT1A receptors. It says the fast onset of an antidepressant action of CBD and the simultaneous anxiolytic effect would solve some of the main limitations of the current antidepressant therapies. This strategy, right, this novel strategy could bring new light, ready, new, fast, effective antidepressant therapies. So I call Mike, we're great friends. I say, hey man, should we give Bobby cannabis? He said, what? You don't give somebody THC that has brain damage? Are you stupid? You're pretty smart, but what are you thinking? Well, all the kids are really interested in cannabis right now, Doc. I was just curious what you thought. He was like, we will never give him THC. I said, well, what about CBD? He was like, well, let me think about it. Well, we published his case, Therapeutic Use of Omega-3 Fatty Acids in Severe Head Trauma, in the American Journal of Emergency Medicine. So we're documenting all this because there's going to be a follow-up and another special with Sanjay Gupta and another report. Check this out. Here's the update on Bobby. We started giving him CBD in June of 2015, so this wasn't like last week. He's been on it for a while. 2 weeks later, a phone call. No longer depressed, stopped taking SSRIs, anxiety levels completely vanished, asked a girl for her phone number, set a goal to walk without assistance. I mean, that should be the talk. That should be it. Now, why did it work so well for Bobby? How was his ECS? How was he? Was he balanced? No. If you're totally balanced, are you going to get that reaction? Maybe not. So don't take this if you're totally healthy, hoping to get cured of brain damage that you don't have, okay? Because you're setting yourself up for unrealistic expectation. So he wrote this in the book, okay? This is Bobby to the doctor. Now, if this guy wasn't an Army Ranger, if this guy wasn't friends with H.R. McMaster, if he didn't go to West Point with him and have lunch with him every Saturday, I wouldn't believe this stuff because I don't believe anything anymore. I don't know about anybody else. Every other thing is made up anyway. But I know this person, okay? Thank you, Dr. Lewis, for giving me CBD oil. It drastically changed my life. I can't begin to describe it in words. Thanks to CBD oil, I'm feeling much more comfortable in my own skin. I'm being more social. I'm making big noticeable changes. I'm doing stand-up comedy now. Come on. I've got my own place. I got a raise at my job. I'm feeling optimistic. And he's now a DJ. Woo, 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 woo. Okay? Pretty exciting, right? And that's what he's taken. 1 gold soft gel a day. That stuff. There's more. Does anyone know Scott Shannon, MD? You notice there are 3 MDs in a row. I don't dislike the NDs, but I'm trying to make a point. Ready? No gongs, no bongs, no Cheech and Chongs. Does anyone get my point? Okay? Don't you need someone like this and a company like this fighting for this plant? Because we got people down in Kentucky hanging out with Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul all the time, and they're totally bullish on hemp now. Totally bullish on hemp because it's decaf and not regular, and they're going to replace the tobacco crops with hemp. There's a lot more going on than people have any idea. Let's get back to Scott. Does anyone know Shannon? Okay, he's one of the leading integrative psychiatrists in the world. He went to school with Andrew Weil. He's the first psychiatrist I've ever known that said this. When you say, hey doc, can I drink coffee? He'll say, sure, as long as you're not the patient of a psychiatrist. I love this guy. So he's also part of the MAPS program. Does anybody know what we're doing with the MAPS program? We're giving MDMA ecstasy to soldiers with PTSD. 3 treatments, rolling on ecstasy in his office, and they're cured. It's unbelievable. So there's some bleeding edge stuff. In this case, CBD oil for pediatric anxiety and insomnia is part of post-traumatic stress disorder. So this is a case for the ages. This was a young girl, according to the doctor, ready? The patient presented, and this is on PubMed, by the way. This is indexed and on PubMed. The patient in January displayed aggressive, disobedient, impulsive, and inappropriate behaviors. She also demonstrated low self-esteem, anxiety, had poor sleep. She was 10 years old. Dr. Shannon said she needed an exorcism. He's never seen somebody that was this disturbed. And then what did they do 2012? They looked at thyroid, they looked at iron deficiency, they put her on some nutrition, a little bit of help, but not much. They put her on Klonidine. She started hallucinating. They had to discontinue the drugs. They were thinking about institutionalizing her. There was nothing else they could do for the girl. Counseling sessions were started. The patient continued psychotherapy for 3 years, but she wasn't seen again until the return of 2015, right? So now she's a couple years older. No medication, no supplements. We put her on 25 milligrams of CBD, and she used a little spray as need be throughout the day, and it's on PubMed, and most of her life is back to normal. Why did she need it so much? Why? Her endocannabinoid system was so totally out of balance that she needed it. And then our last paper. If I'm going to stand here and tell you it's decaf and not regular, if I'm going to tell you that hemp is different than marijuana, then we better take our hemp extract and treat somebody that's addicted to marijuana, right? We better do that and publish that in Integrative Medicine, a clinician's journal. That's pretty cute, isn't it? Our product for decreasing the addictive use of marijuana. Decaf is different than regular. Listen, the patient was a 27-year-old dude who presented with a long-standing diagnosis of bipolar disorder and a daily addiction to marijuana. He's in Colorado. He was smoking purple Donkey Kong Kush. And his friends told him, you got to get a big bong and a dab rig. You got to really go for it, man. It made him crazy because he needs decaf. He doesn't need regular. Scott calls me up. He's like, man, Stuart, THC is the enemy of mental health, man. It might not be for everybody. Has anyone heard cannabinoid-induced hypermesis? They're coming into these clinics freezing cold, presenting the symptoms of heroin addiction. They got to stand in a hot shower for 12 hours at a time because they're freezing cold. Those kids need more CBD. What do they also need? Some more omega-3, right? Nix the 6, eat the 3, ditch the THC, get some CBD. So how does this stuff help you? Before you go in there and load up, because you probably should. We're actually on sale tonight too. Mental health, metabolic health, neurodegenerative, epilepsy, which I didn't talk about tonight because you should talk to your doctor about epilepsy and CBD. You know why? You'd be on 5 different anti-epileptic drugs. That's right. And the CBD might have some effect with P450. And we don't know for sure if the CBD is causing those other drugs to hang around longer. We can't tease out the signal-to-noise ratio, so that's why we don't try to use epilepsy to sell our hemp extracts. Does that make sense? Other companies do that, and I find that distasteful. So every bottle you buy, money goes to the American Herbal Products Association. Okay, so that was like 15 grand this year. American Herbal Pharmacopoeia, that was another 10. Hemp Industries Association, U.S. Hemp Roundtable is about 100,000 a year. All of these groups we support. When you support us, we support them. We're not just doing this for us. This is part of a system. The U.S. Hemp Roundtable will be making hemp legal. They introduced the farm bill that's down in Kentucky right now that has 39 co-sponsors. These groups here are fighting for you. So if you work with us, take our products, help support us, we help support them. So on our last couple slides, what about safety? What about safety? We talked a lot about efficacy. What about safety? Oh, nobody ever dies from marijuana. You think the judge likes to hear that? The LD50 is real high, Your Honor. No one's dying. They don't want to hear that, right? So this came out at the end of last year, an update on safety and side effects of CBD, a review of clinical data and relevant animal studies, and it says, several aspects of toxicological evaluation of a compound, such as genotoxicity studies and research evaluating CBD's effects on hormones, are still scarce. Especially chronic studies on CBD. I'm telling you, take it every day. Where's the evidence? For example, genotoxicity and the immune system are still missing. Not anymore. This is the most exciting thing I've been able to contribute to in my entire life. They hired me at this company, and on my first day I said, you're going to need to spend $1 million on toxicology work. What? We're not making drugs? No, you're going to make a supplement, and I want the toxicology. I want you to sacrifice the animals. I want to make sure there's no sperm motility issues. Has anybody ever heard cannabis can cause sperm motility issues? That goes back to the 1980s. We made a bona fide discovery, not in our work. In 1981, they used monkeys of different maturation rates. No one would have approved that today. We found no sperm motility issues, no genotox issues. The stuff is clean and it is safe on our finished branded products. Now, this is currently under review. The Journal of Toxicology is reviewing this. And when we were published, since the toxicological studies are done on the exact article of commerce, ready? How many of you have heard the term generally recognized as safe? Ready? Okay, we're the only company in the world to grass. Okay? We grassed grass. So when someone says, oh yeah, I have some good stuff too, yeah, where's the tox work? Oh no man, it's really good, bro, trust me, I have third-party testing. No, did you do some tox work? Dude, you should see these buds, man. The different conversation, right? If you're gonna take it every day, don't you think you need to know this? Okay? So, as a result of doing it right, here's our store count. We started April 2015. We're now in 1,500 health food stores. These are sales. We did $20 million in sales last year. Can you imagine when this thing is totally de-risked, what this is going to look like? Now, in the face of all this ambiguity, how many of you here know what spins is? Does everyone know what spins is? Every time you hear the beep, 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 beep at the register, every time you buy something, beep, it goes to spins. So when someone tells you they have the best pizza, you want to make sure it's supported by spins, okay? You're looking at here, these are all the dietary supplement companies. These are just the independent stores, like Peggys store. This is not Whole Foods, GNC, or Vitamin Shop. How long has Plus CBD oil been in business? Just a few years. Did you know we're the third ranked dietary supplement of all companies? How long has now been around? 1968, Garden of Life. They just sold to Nestle. Did anybody just notice this? Nestle just bought Garden of Life. Amazon bought Whole Foods. They didn't buy Costco. At least we were right. Okay? But look at us. Here's Nordic Naturals, here's Barleans, and here's us. So we are currently the #1 selling CBD. So this is a picture of Lucky Vitamins in Iowa. When people say to me, I don't know, it's a little more conservative here. This is a sign that say adaptogens, hemp, CBD, and medical mushrooms, right? Right? I should say magic mushrooms, and then it just fits in just perfect, right? So why is there heartache around CBD? Our last few minutes. Why is there heartache? Why are you hearing it might not be a dietary supplement? Any idea? Pharma.
Big Pharma.
Big Pharma. Now, I don't want to take a shot at them. That's not fair, because they're not here to defend themselves. So let's just have a conversation. How many of you recognize this product, Sativex? Let me see a show of hands. How many of you know this, okay? This product is approved in Canada and 27 other countries around the world, but not the United States. Look at what its dose is. 2 milligrams of CBD, 2 milligrams of THC. What is this indicated for? Any idea? Multiple sclerosis spasticity. Multiple sclerosis spasticity. Why is this not approved in America? Any idea? And the moment they approve it, what do they have to concede? That THC has medical benefits! And they can't! So you can go to Ireland, you go to England, you go to New Zealand, go to Australia, you go to Canada, you're surrounded. But you can't get it here. This stuff is so effective. You take a few sprays of this, you got MS, you pop out of the wheelchair, you start dancing an Irish jig. I mean, stuff's amazing, right? But they won't let it be here. So what I'm about to show you is why you stayed tonight. Thank you for being such a patient audience. I hope this was fun. The next slide is the crescendo of everything. So I've been telling you, you better self-experiment and self-medicate. Start maybe with the raw, maybe add the green, maybe the raw and the gold together for central sensitization. I'm encouraging you to self-medicate, and that feels kind of druggy, doesn't it? That's not what doctors do. No, 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 no. Doctors give very clear advice, don't they? If side effects occur, discontinue immediately. Take 2, take it with a meal. They're very, very specific. So let's take a look at how GW Pharma is telling you to take this cannabis drug. Wouldn't that be interesting, huh? Now, just so you know, this is not synthetic. I'll say it again. This is not synthetic. Did you know that? Okay? They call this a phytopharmaceutical. Why? It's not a synthetic because the stereoisomers have 20% binding affinity, and Marinol cause psychosis in patients. And that's why we haven't had a cannabinoid drug since 1985. We have Sesamet, but that's it. They had to go back to the plant because of the complex biochemical nature of Mother Nature, that there's no way to improve on what she does, period. So check this out. This is the crescendo. Here's how you use cannabinoids. Does everybody recognize Bayer aspirin logo up here? So before I read it, Is Bear Aspirin in the business of losing billions? Okay. How about it? Has Bear Aspirin ever lost one nickel? Probably not. Okay? Here's how they say you should use the stuff. Ready? Patients gradually titrate their dose, number of sprays per day during the first 2 weeks of treatment. On day 1, patients take 1 spray in the evening between 4 p.m. and bedtime. Why do we want you in bed to take your first spray of THC? So you're not driving, in case you've never been stoned, just so you know how you're going to feel, right? Now, they then gradually, look at this, increase the dose, following the pattern in Table 1 until they reach a dose, ready, that provides optimum symptom relief. Once they have titrated their dose to achieve optimum symptom relief, patients can adjust their dose according to how they are feeling, not how your doctor thinks you're feeling, how you are feeling on a day-to-day basis over time as your disease progresses and changes. How terrifying is this? How disruptive is this? Think about what we're suggesting here. The umbilical cord of dependency, you're yanking it back. This is going on worldwide. This is the decentralization of power. Does anybody else notice that this is going on? This is about the decentralization of power. I stopped listening to doctors telling me you should be feeling fine. I fire them. They look at my blood test. I'm feeling horrible. They're saying, you're young and healthy. You should be feeling just fine. I'm telling you, I don't feel right. You're fired, okay? You have the right to take care of yourself, in our opinion. And here's evidence that says that's exactly how you use this stuff. Exactly. Nothing different. Now, in closing, maximum recommended dose. That would be interesting, right? Maximum wouldn't want to overdo it. Patients may increase their dose up to a maximum of 12 sprays per day. What is that? 24 milligrams of CBD, 24 milligrams of THC. Our maximum dose is 15 milligrams of CBD. Ours is below that. And that's our generally recognized as safe dose is 15 milligrams. So this was published last year. Did you know that this was published in the New England Journal of Medicine? Okay, most people have no idea. They gave CBD on top of multiple anti-epileptic drugs. They tracked a 40% reduction in seizures with a plant, with an oib that the universe gave us. It's truly remarkable. And from this work, here's their CBD product. Oh, there it is, baby. CBD, investigational new drug, limited by federal or United States law. That's what this is about. The same government that told you that if you smoke this shit, it would kill you.
Brain on drugs.
They're creating a monopoly that if you don't buy it from them, you're gonna die. Not on my watch. I'm sorry. That's not gonna happen on my watch. It's gonna happen on your watch. You know why? You can just grow it yourself. What if they put us out of business? What if they shut everybody down like me? You can still plant it yourself. It's part of the decentralization of power. They're gonna charge $36,000 a bottle for this. Joe Maroon from the Pittsburgh Steelers called over there and said, who's in charge? Okay, I'm the neurosurgeon for the Pitts. I want to talk to somebody. Hey, how much are you going to charge? $36,000. It's robbery. It's robbery. It's not right. And we're going to say it is disgusting, and we're going to do something about it. What we're going to do about it is you can either get red, green, or gold. Okay, you like that? You're going to take care of yourself, right? This is for the body. This one's for the mind. And if it doesn't work, then you try the $36,000 Epidiolex. So how's that sound for fair, right? Because in the palm of our hands, we have the most exquisite natural medicine that we've ever had. So please do not be afraid. We track every side effect. If you have any issue with the product, you call the number on the bottle. The woman that answers the phone received these phone calls when she worked for a giant pharmaceutical company. The medical doctor that will call you back works at Shire, who does drug interaction stuff. We sold 1 million bottles last year. We did not have one serious adverse event. We had 2 side effects for the entire year. I looked at the paperwork, I read the reports. 2 very sick people that took a lot of gold the first time, okay? Or someone took like 6 capsules, you know, it was just too much the first time. The people that do this adverse event reporting do it for Vitamin Shop, and they just scored the account for Amazon. They told me that our product has fewer side effects than protein powder, okay? So whatever stuff is in your head about reefer madness, I hope it's gone. Different product, different customer, different market. These products are to keep people healthy and happy. Thank you for spending your time tonight. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.